Alrighty, so this video I think is going to be very, very helpful because everything that I'm about to run through, I learned from the Imperium Agency Mastermind. So this is an 8-figure mastermind. This is a room full of, 100K per month plus individuals. And this was honestly, in my opinion, like the most impactful thing that everybody learned, especially me. I mean, you can be taught ads, you can be taught systems and processes, but unless you think differently, things are not going to be different for you or the business. Now, what I've learned, and a quote that I really like, is most people try to create a new personal reality with the same personality, and that does not work. You have to become a different person and think about things differently to achieve the goals that you would otherwise not achieve if you were that same person, if that makes sense. So I'm going to basically do this in the context of me and my journey, and then relate it back to the way that Charlie presented this at the mastermind and how it sort of made me think differently about everything. So if you think about most people that are watching these videos and where I was, and kind of, I'm further down the line in my journey for sure, but what this would have helped me if I saw this in the beginning. So in the beginning, we are at sort of X, where we've got all these problems, like, for me personally, drinking, doing drugs, being lazy, not wanting to go to university. Just to be quite frank, I was a loser. And I held this identity because the parts of me that I perceived as being a loser were overwhelmingly strong at this point. And the other parts of me that I had in the past, especially in my high school days and sporting context, so this is me at 20, but me at 15, 16, 17, 18, I had much stronger parts of me that gave me better qualities that I liked, but then I allowed these other things to take over at this point. This is me now, 6-figure closer, living in Spain, right? And I think it's okay to say I'm quite proud of where I've gotten to. No, by no means am I content or complacent, but I've made a long journey. Now, what I want to talk about is basically, Charlie framed it as, we have a series of fragmented personalities that sit around a table, okay? So if we think of our subconscious as a table, okay, and our consciousness is sitting at the chair of this table, right? And overseeing everything. And these subconscious versions of ourselves, which most of the time come from trauma, are having conversations and dictating us, which is kind of the table or the company, whatever you want to see it as. And we dictate things, and then that becomes our subconscious, becomes the conscious, unless you're aware of it. And this is where self-sabotage comes from, right? So right now, me at this point, I like to do drugs, I like to drink, I like to party, I like to sit in bed and rot and watch TV shows. And they were talking subconsciously and controlling my conscious reality. And that was causing problems in my life because I wasn't consciously monitoring this table. And I was just allowing myself to be taken in directions I did not like, okay? The subconscious will dictate your life until you make it conscious. Now, at this point, basically the idea as a whole, and I'm going to explain this in a second, is you have to appease all these parts of the table because they are a part of you. No matter what, based on your life experiences and the things that have happened to you, these parts will always exist around the table, okay? And you can deal with them, you can go to therapy, and you can work on them, but they will always to some degree be there. So me at this point, in context of the journey of someone starting in the beginning, so this is why monk mode is good, but also detrimental to one's personal reality, because you can push these things down for a certain amount of time, but we've all been there where you monk mode for a month or 3 months, whatever it is, and then you just absolutely evaporate and explode into these self-sabotaging habits, because these things at some point will always come back. They always will. Now, if you're like me at this point right now and you feel like a loser, in my experience, I think monk mode is productive for this part of the journey to get you to about here. Maybe even a little bit further. It is productive to push these things down and create maybe other seats at the table and push away the bad things and open yourself up to this focused, determined individual with this big goal, but that will only get you so far. So in my experience, if you are at this point, you can't continue to appease these other things with the intention of being a different self, because quite frankly, we haven't created the new identity of that better person that we're looking for yet. Okay, so monk mode, in my opinion, is really good at shifting identity. It doesn't even have to be backed with the results. I mean, me at 20, to me before I left for Europe, even, 3 months into my Europe journey, I'd only really had the agency at sort of like 5 to 7K. I had some results, but for a lot of that time, for me, from 20 to 23, was just the gym, competing as a weightlifter. Like, I was doing personal things, but I wasn't seeing like financial reward or time freedom or whatever the fuck people want. But I knew that my identity was changing. And this is so important. Again, you have to change your personality to change your personal reality. So I think monk mode for a certain amount of time is good. Now, when I say monk mode, I literally didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't see my friends, didn't party. I did nothing, had no girlfriends, or had a girlfriend and lost a girlfriend, because I literally pushed everything down as long as I could. It did come to bite me in the ass at this point where I had to go to therapy because I could no longer subdue these things, which is what we're kind of talking about in the appeasement side of things. Now, it bit me in the bum, right? But I had changed my identity enough at this point where I identified now as a high achiever. I think that is the best identity to hold, in my opinion. All I try to hold for myself these days is I just want to be a high achiever in anything that I do. That is my identity. And I created values around that identity in therapy, and that really helped me. Okay, but I couldn't do this here. I couldn't just try and do these things and maybe go out once a week or whatever, because it was always gonna snowball back to this point. So changing the identity in monk mode, regardless of the results, regardless if you get your agency scaled up, regardless of what you do, as long as you can control these subconscious desires to a point where you feel comfortable that they exist. Even at this point, I didn't even think they still existed. I just knew that I could control them. And having control of the subconscious, being the chairman of the board and dictating the conversation within inside of you, is super important. And I think monk mode is that, to be honest. I don't think monk mode is what people say it is. It's not this glorified thing. It's bad for you. It is. I put myself in therapy because of it. Like, I had no other choice but to go speak to a professional because I was so beat down and sad, but I had a new identity, and that's so important. So this is my adage to what Charlie spoke about. Okay, giving this period of time, it could be a few months, it could be a few years. For me, it was a long time because I had such bad holds on this loser thing, that you need to change your personal identity and how you see yourself. And I think monk mode is a good way of doing that. Now, once you get to this point where you've got a new identity, things are going to start happening. So for me, it was moving to Europe. Okay, I had done all this change. I have this new identity, and I moved to Europe, and I continued to try and monk mode my way through this new environment, and it did not work, and it nearly sent me home. Now I got this job for Imperium as a sales rep, and again, I thought, okay, I've got this new focus, push everything aside, new identity, and again, it did not work. So how did I get from here to here, where I am closing consistently, I'm making good money, I've got a good personal life, I feel very good within myself, is because I kind of have adopted this idea, but Charlie basically put it into words for me. So all of these things that sit around the table now, for me, it's like, you know what? I do like going out on dates. I like being social. I like sitting in bed all day watching movies. I like going to the beach, but I also love working. I love pushing hard at the gym. I love being a focused individual. I love that stuff as well. It's all a part of me now, but I am consciously making real life decisions based on the parts of me that I know exist. And what that looks like for me is doing, a couple of weeks, even a month, really focused, and then getting on a plane and going see my friends in London, or going to a festival in Slovenia, or, going on a group holiday. Because you need to appease these things. Or maybe once a month, I take a day and I just sit in bed all day and just rot. Because, those parts of me I like. I love watching movies in bed, and that is okay. I think, Charlie is specifically he spoke about it in terms of himself as well, where it's he's got all these things, but he has to appease some other parts as well. And if you don't appease and understand these aspects, you're going to get to the end of monk mode and you're going to start getting some results. And I promise you, you're going to fall back. You're going to get comfortable. Let's say, for example, you monk mode, you get your angels into 10K. Because trust me, the money's not going to make you happy. Promise you that. I got more money than I can poke a stick at in my bank account right now, and I couldn't care less. Because I've got enough money to appease my desires. But I don't have enough achievement to appease my high achiever side, which is awesome. And I'm aware of that, and I'll never will, which is constantly going to push me towards something bigger. So this conceptual idea of where you want to get to, I don't care if I'm making 10K a month, 50K a month, or 100K a month, because the money's never going to be never be enough. I want to be the kind of guy that goes into a room and can be identified as someone who's an expert, as a high achiever, and there's always going to be a bigger room. So I always have something to chase. And that's super important in my opinion, because A, you're going to burn out in terms of appeasing the parts of you that you, i.e. don't want, or B, you're going to get to a point where you've reached the goal, and then what? Then what? Then what do you do? Right? So it's it doesn't really matter what I'm doing as long as I'm doing it at the best of my ability and trying to be the highest achiever in that space, then I can be happy and content. So in a real world example, I think for me, I always, even at this point and recently at this point, I always felt like I was a loser. I always felt at my core, in my subconscious, that I was a loser. But that's not true. I'm just a person that likes to do things other than work 7 to 10, whatever hours per day. But I also like doing that as well. So it's I can give myself the allowance to go get on a plane and see my friends, to go on a date, as long as it's not hindering the main goal and purpose. And the main goal and purpose needs to be controlled by this guy, the chairman. That's why putting things on a piece of paper, figuring out your identity, which you can do in monk mode, is so important. I've got this core identity that I hold so strong that when I'm in this point and someone offers me a cigarette or someone offers me something that I know at this current time I don't want to do, I will not do it. Okay? But look, I'm going to be honest with you. I always said I would never lie on this. If someone offers me, let's just use a cigarette example, or going out for dinner, whatever it is. If I'm in the point where I'm okay, I've done X amount of days, weeks, months of work, I'm in a good spot, I feel like I'm getting towards that point of the high achieving, okay, that's totally okay. As long as it fits within this realm of things, it's fine. And then as long as, one day doesn't become two. For example, I think this weekend, I'm pretty tired. I've been working really hard. I've been closing some good deals. I just want to take a day to sit on the couch. But if I did Sunday on the couch and then Monday comes around and I get a no-show and I want to sit on the couch, that's the problem. Okay? But maybe, on Sunday, if I pushed it away and kept working, come later in the week, Wednesday, I'm fuck, I need to chill out. That's also a problem. So for me, it's very much routine based as well. How can I structure my routine in my life to appease these things? In real world practice, I said I'd do a day in the life, and I still want to do that, but I think this was more important. It's I get up, I go to the gym, and I go to the beach. That appeases the gym part of me. It appeases the routine part of me. I get to sit in the sun, which appeases the kind of relaxation side of me. And then I get home and I start work. Okay? I start work a bit later in the day because of the time zones and the sales process, which is totally fine. And then I work my 9 hours. I do everything I can in those 9 hours to be the best version of myself. And then I shut off my laptop and I go watch a movie. And that's okay. And I'm eating all my macros, and it's built into my routine to make myself feel, and every part of me feel heard and listened to. That's it. You know, think about it when you go on a date. Like, how can you be an effective version? And people say this all the time, like, treat yourself like you would like to treat others. I'll use the date example. You know, if I ever go on a date, what am I trying to do? I'm just trying to make that person feel heard, appreciated, and beautiful, because they're a girl. But you just want to do the same thing for yourself. You want these parts to feel heard and appreciated, and treating them with kindness. That's why one of my core values is kindness. But kindness does not equal nice. Okay, that's a really important thing. So I can be kind to myself, but being kind to myself doesn't mean, oh, I want to sit on the couch when I get a no-show, because that's not kind. Being kind to someone is having the hard conversations, and this version of myself, my conscious brain, needs to have the hard conversations with the lazy version of me pretty irregularly, because I'm like, oh man, I got a couple blocks, you know, a couple no-shows, I could just chill out. It's like, no, follow up, do this, train, get better, because then I know either that evening or that weekend, I've scheduled out some time to be like this. So I am not a loser. I have a part of me that likes to be a loser and likes to be lazy, but it's not me. I get to choose who I am, and that's a high achiever in my opinion. That's who I want to be. And you have to have the kindness and the compassion to have hard conversations with yourself, right? And it's really as simple as that. Change your identity by focused effort. Create a new personal reality, a new personality, a new identity. Start seeing some results because of the hard work that you've done on yourself, and then remove yourself from the tangible goal and start appeasing the bigger parts of you. It's really as simple as that. But I'm telling you right now, if you're watching this and you go, oh, Louis just said that I can appease these things, I'm making no money, I don't have any, relationships in my life that are important, I don't really have anything, but Louis said, every now and then I need to sit on the couch. Bullshit. You need to change who you are first. And you're going to know when you get to that point, I promise you, because you'll start to feel it within inside of you. When you get to that point, you've built some identity changes or some tangible results, then we can start thinking about this. But monk mode, in my opinion, is important. Even as I think it's I think it's lame. I think this side of YouTube is pretty lame. And I think it should be done differently and explained properly. Because I'm telling you, these guys that you idolize on YouTube, they're doing this. They're doing things in their life that they would never want to tell you about, and I promise I will never do that. I could be making $1 billion a month, $1 billion, that's ridiculous, $1 billion a year, right? And I'd still tell you the times that I wanted to go on a date or have a dart or chill out and watch a movie, because it's always going to be there. It's just reality. It's just about being human, but the most important thing is you have to have hard conversations with yourself. Unless you face the reality of your situation, and it should be hard. Anything in life worth doing is hard, especially those conversations, and I'm constantly checking myself throughout the day. Is this aligning with my main purpose, or is this just a small part of me that wants this thing right now? And just being emotionally intelligent and self-aware enough to make the call. And if you make a mistake and you do a few things, you appease something too much and you start going backwards, that's okay, because you can have control over it. Right? People say like control freak, all that stuff, it's bad. If you don't have control over yourself, if you can't even control what you put into your body, what you eat, you don't have control over anything. Like the basic stuff, sleep, diet, habits, physical activity, the basic things. If you can't control that, you're never going to make 10K a month. You're never going to make 100K a month. You're never going to do anything in your life. Once you change your identity and control the basic things, then we can have this conversation. But you can't do this here because you're just not that person yet. And shit, I might not even be that person yet, but at least I'm having these conversations with myself. And right now it's working, and it will stop working, and I'll have to re-go through the process, but that's just life. It's never going to be easy, and it's never going to be complete. That's the point. The only point of life when it's complete is when I'm dead. And I hope to God when I'm dead at this point, or when I'm on my deathbed and I look back at my life, I can be proud and say that this guy, my consciousness controlled all of this, but also appeased them and was kind. And that's going to make me content with my life. And I know if I do it like this and continue to stay on my goal and my purpose and my drive, then I'm going to end up in a good spot. It could be making 100K a year. It could be making $10 million a year. That doesn't matter as long as I am in the place that I want to be at the end of the day. And, you know, you have to be intentional. No one's ever run up a hill without intention. Life should be an uphill battle because all the pleasure comes from moving towards the thing. So that's why I think just creating the thing that basically never ends is the best thing. Like Sisyphus rolling that thing up the hill. Like you want to just keep rolling the thing up the hill. You never want to get to the top because when you do, what happens when you get to the top of something? There's only the down. That top should be me 6 feet under. And honestly, I'm actually okay with that. Genuinely, I'm okay with my life ending because thank God. Because I know I've got a certain amount of time to make the most of it. And, you know, death really creates purpose in life. Because if I was just doing this for infinity, it'd be like, what would be the point of getting out of bed? You just have to face this stuff. And it has to mean something to you. Because if it doesn't, you may as well not even try. So this has been massive. I promise I'll do a day in the life and kind of just show you what I mean about this in practice. But yeah, get off YouTube and just do something with yourself, honestly. Man, I watched YouTube videos until the fucking cows came home and it got me nowhere. Sure, in the beginning it can get you somewhere, but you have to get to a point where you just have to start thinking for yourself. So this really helped me a lot. And this is the stuff that the high level entrepreneurs are talking about. So this is how we got to think if we want to be like those people. So yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one.